And we're back. You're watching the World News on Myanmar International. I'm Randolf Jamias. Let's start the news in Russia. President Vladimir Putin on Monday blessed a full takeover by state oil major Rosneft of Anglo-Russian oil venture TNK BP, calling it a very good signal for the Russian market. Putin was speaking at a meeting with Rosneft CEO Igor Sechin, who said Rosneft had agreed to buy 100% of TNK BP from its shareholders. The first part of the Kremlin-backed agreement announced by Rosneft on Monday folds BP's half of TNK BP, Russia's third-largest oil company, into Rosneft in exchange for cash and Rosneft stock in an agreement worth about $27 billion US, including $12.3 billion US of cash and the rest in stock. In stage 2, AAR would get $28 billion US in cash, but the two deals are independent of each other, and the AAR deal is still subject to negotiation. Putin told Sechin that this is very good signal for the Russian market. From Russia, we head to Africa. This industrial park in Haiti could provide progress for a nation grappling with instability. The $300 million project was opened on Monday at an event presided over by Bill and Hillary Clinton. Long-term, it's hoped the park will create 130,000 jobs and a much-needed boost to a country still suffering from the 2010 earthquake. UN Special Envoy Bill Clinton said the project showed Haiti was on lost cause. Led by South Korean textile company, the Caracol Park is expected to grow as more companies move in. Located in the north, it could also shift focus away from the overcrowded capital of Port-au-Prince.
What you see here today is an example of what works all over the world, and a rebuke to those who say that progress is not possible, or there's a problem, or something else. What works everywhere in the world, in every country I work in, at every income level, is when the government and the private sector and the NGOs work together to build a stronger future of shared prosperity.
Let's talk about water. People in many parts of the world have been venturing in water business. The global market for wastewater treatment and desalination equipment is expected to be $1 trillion. Japan has led the way in developing filtration technology and currently holds a 40% share of the global market, but its dominance is facing a challenge.
The latest water purification technologies and hardware were on display in South Korea last month. Some 5,000 people from 90 countries attended an exhibition in Busan, organized by the International Water Association. It was the first time for an event of this kind to be held in South Korea.
Water shortages are becoming an urgent issue. We can tackle water shortages by increasing the water supply, advancing technologies, and invigorating businesses.
One of the exhibitors was Samsung conglomerate. It recently announced it has developed a highly sophisticated water filter, and it is entering the water treatment business in earnest. The key area that the South Korean companies are focusing on is desalination technology. Their goal is to deliver all-in facilities in which the components, from water filters to pumping equipment, are manufactured entirely in South Korea. The South Korean government has identified water purification as a key sector. It foresees growing demand in the Middle East and Africa, and is planning to create 40,000 jobs in the sector over the next 5 years.
We're looking for tie-ups with any countries interested in our experience and technologies. Rather than going alone, we intend to work with ministries of the Environment, Foreign Affairs, and Trade.
Hitoshi Mimura is the president of a water treatment facility maker in Osaka. His company's award-winning equipment for pumping out groundwater is used around the world. Mimura is a regular exhibitor at events organized by the International Water Association, and he has used this prestigious status to boost his sales around the world. Now, though, the South Korean companies look like becoming formidable rivals.
South Korea has done in 3 years what it took us 10 years. They've caught up with us.
Nimura is keen to promote the advanced technology produced in Japan. He wants to persuade the IWA to open a branch in Japan. Nimura is the only executive of a Japanese company invited to the reception for the trade fair. He takes this opportunity to pitch his idea for the IWA branch in Japan.
It would be much easier if the Japanese government were involved rather than me doing the talking. But actually, the government would rather cut spending on this kind of initiative. I'm worried Japan may get left behind.
Another basic need in any country is oil. This time we head to Kazakhstan. It has taken $46 billion over 12 years to bring Kashagan, the biggest world oil field discovery since 1968, to the brink of production. Up to 12 billion barrels of oil, enough to supply the world for 4 months, lie in wait beneath Kazakhstan's portion of the Caspian Sea, to be extracted by the consortium that includes ExxonMobil, Shell, and Eni. Kazakhstan, the largest economy in Central Asia, has grown in confidence and is pushing to withdraw contracts agreed in the lean years after being cast adrift by the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991. If peak production of 1.5 million barrels per day is ever achieved, these 5 partners would each be entitled to 252,000 barrels per day. The ultimate Phase 1 target, requiring the addition of extra gas compressors, is 450,000 barrels per day.
Another challenge is the fact that we have in the northern part of the Caspian Sea, which freezes in the winter. And on the boat trip we had this morning, in the winter, everything will be completely frozen, and you have a condition which are very close to Arctic condition, with the ice pushing on the island and so on. This is also another challenge. Well, you know, the achievement is to be able to put this field in production. You know, this is the first offshore development for the Republic of Kazakhstan in the Caspian. It's quite an achievement for all the people who have been working here, and it's very important for the Republic, and that's quite important for us as well.
And on a final note, what benefits can we get if we are able to control somebody's brain? Researchers at Harvard have managed to take control of a worm's brain. After genetically engineering the microscopic worm to make its neurons sensitive to light, the scientists found they could its movements through stimuli projected into its brain. Let's take a closer look.
This microscopic roundworm is chasing food that doesn't exist. Scientists have tricked the worm, and they did it by taking over control of its tiny brain. Sharad Ramanathan and his team want to better understand how biological networks operate. They've spent the past 4 years studying the 300 neurons that make up the worm's brain and finding ways to track and control each one. They genetically engineered the worm's neurons to emit fluorescent light so they can track them, and to become light sensitive, so they can turn each one on or off with laser pulses.
And suddenly by controlling a neuron, we could control turning left or right, going forward or backward. And this neuron receives lots of sensory information. So just by controlling this neuron, we could figure out how the animal should move and remote control it, basically. And then the point was, can we make it think there is food? And just by controlling the activity of this neuron, we could make it think there is food, make a beeline for where the food was supposed to be, except that there was no food. It was just we're playing with the brain to make it think that there is food.
Researcher Ashkan Kokaba says the hard part was developing the system to track and target individual neurons in the worm's brain while it was in motion.
We are using complex image processing algorithms here, and then we can acquire the image, we can process the image, and we can identify the neuron positions, and then we can specifically focus the light into specific neuron.
And even with the tiny worm squirming away, they managed to accurately fire lasers at its neurons 50 times per second. The system uses a movable table which keeps the worm centered beneath an ultra-fast camera. Once they have the real-time image, they can target and shoot neurons. giving them overall control of the worm's brain.
The question further up is to say, can we also start doing such things with higher organisms like zebrafish, where the brain is infinitely more complex, or so it seems, and start asking similar questions in the hope of understanding how biological networks are designed.
Zebrafish brains are a lot more complex than the roundworms. Ramanathan says developing a system to control them is still years away. He says tracking and targeting a microscopic worm is one thing, but keeping up with a moving fish is still the stuff of science fiction.
And that completes our stories for today's World News on Myanmar International. Local news coming up next. Thanks for the company.